Hello, BookTube, and welcome to the continuation of my 2020 library tour. Today is History Week, Day 4. We've finished this bookcase here and are moving to the bookcase that's under it. And this one's going to be a pretty long one. So, let's get started. First is A Distant Mirror, The Calamitous 14th Century by Barbara W. Tuchman. This is a history and somewhat biography of a French nobleman. I think his name was de Courcy, who ended up marrying into the English royal family. And it's about the 100 Years' War, as well as a French peasants' rebellion that happened in the mid 14th century. I have this book largely because there's a project I've been wanting to write for a few years that is inspired by this period. So that's one of the reasons why I picked it up. I also picked it up because I do like Tuchman's work, particularly her history of the world before the First World War, the Proud Tower, which I've been wanting to pick up for ages. Next is Holy Madness, Romantics, Patriots, and Revolutionaries 1776 to 1871 by Adam Zamoyski. Picked it up from one of my thrift books. And it's an ex-library copy from Nesbitt Memorial Library. A Survey of Historic Costume by Phyllis Tortora and Keith Eubank. Has some pretty gorgeous pictures in here. Not entirely sure if it should be with the history or if I should move it somewhere else, though. The Fall of the Dynasties, The Collapse of the Old Order, 1905 to 1922 by Edmund Taylor. Picked this up from the Friends of the Library book sale, and it is a withdrawn copy from Waco McLennan County Library. And I've had this for a few years and really should get around to reading it. History of Venice by John Julius Norwich. I'm not entirely sure where I picked this up from, either Friends of the Library book sale or the library thing at St. Edward's University. History and Society by Noah Edward Fell. I picked this up from... I'm thinking this I picked up from St. Edward's University and really would like to get to it eventually. Another book I picked up from the Friends of the Library book sale a few years ago, or maybe it was actually just recently, Byzantium, The Decline and Fall. So this is volume 3 of John Julius Norwich's History of Byzantium. The Nile, The Life Story of a River by Emil Ludwig. Picked this up from St. Edward's University, the library thing. I guess you could call it, I think it was like the free library sell or something. Yeah, it's been forever. The Beauty and the Terror, The Italian Renaissance and the Rise of the West by Catherine Fletcher. Picked this up from Powell's City of Books a few months ago and loved this book. This book is such an amazing history of the Italian Renaissance. Definitely, I highly recommend it. Another book I picked up from Powell's, The Iron Curtain, The Crushing of Eastern Europe, 1944 to 1956 by Anne Applebaum. Surprisingly, a used library copy from Newport Beach Public Library. This book is amazing. Post-Wall, Post-Square, How Bush, Gorbachev, Kohl, and Ding Shaped the World After 1989 by Christina Spohr. This is a brilliant history of the end of the Cold War. Just absolutely brilliant. I love this book. Absolutely love it. The Franco-Prussian War, The German Conquest of France in 1870 to 1871 by Geoffrey Worrow. This is a really good history. This is the second time I've owned a copy. I first owned a copy in the early 2000s, shortly after it came out through the History Book Club. I really enjoyed it then, and quite happy to have it back. And I reread it this year, and it's still really good. Now, this book here will make Sean D. Sandfest quite happy. This is Ancient Syria, a 3,000-year history by Trevor Bryce. I want to say this is Bryce's most recent work, and it's a history of ancient Syria. I think it ends around the time of Alexander, or slightly before. Or it might go into the Roman period. It's been a few years since I've read it. Interlibrary loaned it a few years ago, and I've really wanted it in my personal collection because I really do love ancient history and the ancient Near East. I'm quite happy to have it. So, yeah. Look forward to a reread. Returning to Adrian Goldsworthy, we have The Punic Wars. This is a history of the three wars between Rome and Carthage that saw the eventual destruction of Carthage after the Third Punic War. This book is quite good. I had this one also from the History Book Club in the early 2000s and wanted it back, and quite happy to have it. And I am looking forward to a reread. More recent acquisition is Hyder M. Judson, or Judson. I think would be Judson maybe. The Habsburg Empire, A New History. Picked this up rather recently, and quite looking forward to reading it. I'm kind of on a bit of a Habsburg kick at the moment. Empire of the Black Sea, The Rise and Fall of the Mithridatic World by Dwayne W. Roller. This is a really good history of Pontus and of the Mithridatic dynasty. It does sort of, I think, falter in one of the later chapters where he's basically having, or Roller's basically having to sort of do a cultural history tangent. But on the whole, this is a really good history. The Life and Death of Ancient Cities, A Natural History by Greg Wolfe. I was really excited about this book. I read it in early November, and I didn't quite get on with it, but I am going to have another go at this. And hopefully my opinion will be revised, or I'll have different expectations. Hopefully. This is really good. The Secret History of Wonder Woman by Joe Lepore. It's a biography, or like a triple biography of William Moulton Marston, who created Wonder Woman, and his two wives. And how both women were instrumental in the formulation of Wonder Woman. Now, this is a really good biography and history of Wonder Woman. The Peloponnesian War by Donald Kagan. I had this as with the History Book Club a few years, well, about 20 years ago now. not quite 20 years ago. And I had this for a class. Well, I didn't have it for a class, but I read excerpts of this book for a class. My first college class was Introduction to the Liberal Arts with the war, focus on war. And so it was taught by two professors. One professor taught history, and so he did the Peloponnesian War, the Mexican-American War, which was his specialty, and the Vietnam War. And then there was a literature professor who taught us the Iliad. I want to say it was The Prince and the Art of War, and then the Images of War, I think was the other book. But anyway, so yeah, and so I picked it up and read it, and I quite like it. So one of my more recent acquisitions is Philip and Alexander, Kings and Conquerors by Adrian Goldsworthy. Looking forward to reading it. Hopefully I'll get to this early in the new year, and if not, I'll basically read it sometime in October or November, usually when I do read an Alexander the Great biography. This year I read Anthony Everett's biography of Alexander, and the year before I read F.S. Knighton's biography of Alexander. Another biography, this time of Louis XIV, King of the World, by Philip Mansell. This biography seeks to situate Louis in the context of the global situation and like that France faced during his reign. Looking forward to reading it. Hopefully it won't be too long. Another book from when I was a member of the History Book Club, Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. This is a group biography of Abraham Lincoln and those members of his cabinet who were his rivals for the 1860 Republican nomination for president. And this is really good. Although it took me a while to actually read it and appreciate it. And finally, for this shelf, Fifth Sun, A New History of the Aztecs by Camilla Townsend. This book just recently won the Kundo Prize, and I'm quite looking forward to reading it. Hopefully it won't be too long. So that was the shelf. I've got one more history shelf to do. Most of those will be trade paperback or slightly larger mass market sized. And then next week will be the science fiction of Hennessy shells, and that's going to be fun because there's a lot of them. But anyway, so I will sign up for now. There's a tag I want to do, so I'll do a tag here in a bit, so you'll have 2 videos from me today. And until then, thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.